Hello, video request by globetrottermike wants to know, I guess was looking at my website and saw that I have written on there what I was in a past life, wants to know how I came to that conclusion. So, I have written on there, I didn't actually look at the site, so I might miss a few, but I said that I was a musician in Atlantis. I was a wizard or something, or in Wales along the seashore. A priest in Mesopotamia. A Hopi Indian. Hopis are the Indians in eastern Arizona, right next to the Navajo. They live in the mud houses, and in like the Canyonland-like area. And I was a Navajo warrior. I also believe that I was a knight in England, and yeah. Okay, so how did I come to those conclusions? Well, each one of those is from a different reason. Oh yeah, and he wanted to know like how. How did I come to that conclusion? And I think something along the lines of, yeah, how would a normal person find their past lives? I came to a lot of those conclusions by psychically making a connection with that as a young age, and also by like going to psychics and then them telling me something, or going to multiple psychics and them telling me the same thing over and over again. And of course, you can just have normal people tell you what they think you were in a past life, and maybe because they could be like psychic. And you just ask a bunch of people and they tell you, kind of point you in the right direction. But yeah, so it's kind of those two. Making like spiritual connections with things as at a young age is easier than at an older age. So that's why I said at a young age, because I think as you get older, you kind of lose your connection to the spirit world, to all the knowledge you had in between lives. And yeah, so basically you want to be open to that stuff when you're younger, so that you can have those ideas and come to those conclusions that you remember when you're older. Luckily for me, I believed in reincarnation when I was younger, since I was born. So when I had those ideas, I actually believed it, and then I could carry it through. So the priest in the Middle East, I believe that because I think I read like a book back in '87. I don't remember what book it is, but I'm sure it's one of these famous books that everybody knows of. And it was about ancient aliens. Maybe it was Eric von Daniken, but it was about like, yeah, all the evidence of ancient aliens. And I remember in one part of it, they said that in Tiwanaku, in Bolivia, they had like statues of heads of all the different races. And they're talking about and I think I was also reading like Ancient Mysteries, that Time Life series books. And yeah, I had like a dream or a vision, like standing in front of like a bunch of people in the desert, and we were having like talking about religious stuff, not like motivating an army, but talking about like spiritual stuff. And so that's why I said a priest in the Middle East. We've all had a lot of those lives, maybe some in certain places more than others. But now, as far as in England, I remember when Enya Watermark came out, and the song "Sail Away." Oh no, not "Sail Away." Another song on the album, and I felt like I was channeling that she was channeling like the energy of like ancient England, and I could feel like I was in England with the misty waves crashing up against cliffs, and you're in a castle on the edge there, and really peaceful. So that's where I came with that to that conclusion. The Hopi life. When I was like 4 or 5, like learning to read, my mom was reading me this book called The Son of the Sun, or The Child of the Sun, or something. And it's a Hopi like legend or story, children's story. And it's I think it's a pretty popular book. I actually saw that book a couple months ago in one of the libraries. I looked at it, I go, oh man, that's that book. But yeah, I read the book, and it's about some like Hopi kid who is like an orphan or something, or he was different from all the other kids. You know, like made fun of him and stuff or whatever. And he lived in those adobe houses, where they would get up, and they had multiple floors. You get up to the second floor with a wooden ladder from the outside, and then one day he was taken up to the sun, and met the sun, and found out that the sun was his father. And so then he came back, and now he knew that the sun was his father, so he was special. But when I read that book, I had a connection with the Hopi, and I looked at those little those houses, those adobe houses in the landscape, and I felt like I had a connection with that area. So that's when I decided that, okay, yeah, I was a Hopi in a past life. And then I think I said a Sioux warrior. I believe that because back in high school, I read Black Elk Speaks. It's a book about this dude. It was written by this dude, Black Elk. It was written by some guy, some white dude, who ghost wrote it for this other dude, Black Elk, who was a Lakota Sioux up there in like southern Dakota. And he was alive. He was a kid during all those Indian wars. For the whole, like, he was born and grew up. I recommend this book highly. You'll learn about the Indians. He was born and grew up back when the Indians were still unbothered by the white people. They just knew who the white people were. And then as he grew up, the white people, he could tell the whole story of the white people coming more and more and more, and building the railroad through there, and all the problems they had with, like, I guess the Crow. They would steal each other's horses, or the Crow would steal their horses, and he was one of the warriors at the Battle of Little Bighorn. He was one of the dudes who was scalping the Colonel Custer, and then he tried to run away with his tribe up to Canada, but the American military caught them and threw them into the reservation. Didn't let them escape America. Put them in reservations here, and in square houses. And they said their square houses like sucked all the energy out of them. They're like boxes of death. And but a lot of the book was spiritual stuff too. Like he went to England as part of Buffalo Bill Cody's like entertainment troupe, and entertained the Queen and stuff with the Indian songs and dances. And one night he missed his mother and father, and he had a dream, and he had an out-of-body experience where he flew all the way back and like watched them from over there in England. And another time, I think he was a medicine man too, because he ended up becoming a medicine man, kind of a born-again Christian medicine man. But he had there was a sickness, and one of his family was sick, and so he had a vision of the proper plant that could cure the sickness of his friend. So he had a vision of this one place. Like, I guess he had an out-of-body experience and flew over to a certain river, at a certain place in the river, and there's a plant there. And he said, oh yeah, you get that plant. and you boil it up and drink it or something, and it'll heal him. So the next day he went over what he saw in the dream, and he went there, and sure enough, that plant was there, and they took the plant, and it healed his friend. So, and lots of little stories like that. And when I listened to it, I had a really deep connection to it, and I felt like I was there, like I understood that culture, and that I was actually there as one of the Indians. So I decided I was an Sioux Indian warrior. Also, I've been to a few psychics, and yeah, like 3 or 4 of them have all said the same thing, that I have Native American. Last lives I had was Native American. One of them said the last 4 lives I had was Native American. And one lady said that, I guess you said, like, in one life I died because my arm got blown off or something. So maybe I died in the war. Like, I'm sure we all have. But, and then another, yeah. So that's why I came up with that conclusion of that particular past life. A musician in Atlantis. Well, that was actually what a psychic said. They said, you're a musician in Atlantis. Or a musician sometime a long time ago. And I was like, all right, Atlantis. Because I think music, well, for me, music, listening to a certain song, if it makes you, if you're reading a book about something in the past, something that interests you, and then you hear a song, and that song makes you remember that thing that you were reading the book about, you know, the song, the person who writes the song and the person who writes the book, they have nothing to do with each other. So it's you who's making the connection. And then it makes you have like the same, and the memories you have are the same kind of memories as you would have if you were to listen to a song that you were listening to at a certain time in the past in this life, and that makes you remember like how your life was when you first heard that song or listening to that song in a certain time of your life, and you remember like how you felt and how that. And you only remember the good things, the good parts about that. So it kind of, you feel like that was the best part of your life and the most exciting part of life, even if it wasn't. You hear the song and it's like, you remember, it brings back all sorts of other things and emotions and stuff that only the song could do. And that's kind of, and if that happens to you and you have those same exact feelings where it brings back a certain energy, emotional energy, then it's probably a past life regression. So yeah, I don't think I was reading a book. Maybe I was reading the Time Life series about Atlantis and with all the inner and outer rings and stuff. And I was listening to a album by a band called Deep Breakfast, a song called Rhythm in the Pews. And it goes like, but when I listened to that song, I felt like I was in Atlantis, and I could have all those I had the feelings of Atlantis, of like just giant structures and fountains and like peace and enlightenment, and like a level of advancement farther beyond than we are now in certain ways. And it was like a really cool feeling. And so then I guess a psychic, I don't remember which one, goes, yeah, you were a musician. And so I was like, oh, okay, probably in Atlantis, like playing the harp and stuff. And I like music a lot, and I've tried to make beats and stuff, and I can't make music, but that's probably, I bet you I could make music if I practiced really hard at it. So yeah, maybe one day I'd like to be a musician, but that's how I came to that conclusion about the musician in Atlantis. Yeah, but I mean, I haven't had any ideas about what I would. Oh, and then the night, I went to another psychic. These different psychics I go to, like one of them was a channeler, a trance channeler, goes into the trance and then the aliens become her. I did that a few times with my family, and she was the one who's talking about the Indians. And then went to a psychic, two psychics actually, in some fair in Boulder. You go to like the Sunday fair, and they got the psychics there. And then another psychic with my friend who said the same thing about the Indians. But yeah, the lady at the fair, this younger girl, she's like, yeah. Oh no, not her, the older woman. She goes, yeah, a lot of people don't like you in this life because some part about them remembers you in a past life when you were like a knight and you were going around collecting taxes, and you weren't a bad person, but you were being harsh to them to get the taxes, and so they don't like that. So, and I do have past life memories of being in a position of authority, um, like a knight, basically, like the guy, like a tax collector, I guess, an armed tax collector who goes around and collects the taxes, and and then has to exact discipline on people who don't follow the rules, and or maybe like being a general or something. And I did actually the latest past life memory I had was, I guess, 10 years ago. I think I was reading up or something about the Mongols, and then I had like, I guess, yeah, a past life memory of like being part of Genghis Khan's army and the whole idea, and I understood the mindset of Genghis Khan. Because the Mongols were evil, they would go and just destroy everybody because they were barbarians. But originally, Genghis Khan's mission was to open up trade along the Silk Route. It was for altruistic reasons, but people didn't want to open up trade with him. I guess maybe because they thought he was a Mongol. So he thought that if he was going to open up the empire and open up trade, I think that's, at the end of the day, that's the motivation for starting an empire, is for good reasons, to open up trade. So he was just like, all right, we'll just kill all of you and replace you with Mongols, and then that'll work. So that's what they did. They go in and kill everybody, and I kind of understood that at one point, and so I even wrote a thing about it. I was in a creative writing class. So yeah, I think I was part of Genghis Khan's army then. So yeah, that's past life memory. So like, how do you have a past life memory? I think the study of history is the best way to do it, and then if you try to understand why people do the things that they do in the past, and then if you suddenly like have the floodgates open, and all of a sudden you have like a revelation of like, oh yeah, of course, that's why they were like that, or that's why he made that decision, then I think you're having that because you're actually having a past life memory of that area. So then whatever you're thinking about and you have that feeling, then that was your past life. And because that doesn't happen all the time. That doesn't happen every day. And obviously we have had past lives with so many different past lives that if you do that, it has to be one of your past lives. Oh yeah, and he said, I had a question about like linearity, the linear of it. Yeah, because the idea is that there's lots of parallel universes, and went all in different timelines. So there's also the past is happening right now in a parallel universe, and the future as well, and all that stuff. So when you die, you could be reborn in ancient Rome, or you could be reborn like 1,000 years in the future. And I think that's possible, and I think that exists and everything. And people do that, but I think for the most part, when people are reborn, they are reborn linearly, just like how the world moves forward, because the world, our society and culture and planet are evolving linearly. And I think we're generally evolving along with it. I think most of us move along forward. I think when we are reborn in another time zone, it's to redo lives again, if you want to fix do a life like you wish you did, and so you do it, you redo it, or you become enamored, or and maybe lots of lifetimes would go by, and then you decide you want to revisit that. But so I think most of it is linear. But yeah, I think people can reincarnate all over the map as well. So maybe kings are people who have, or prophets, especially prophets like Nostradamus was probably a guy who wanted to live, lived in the future, was a normal person like us, graduated up through time, reincarnated, and then became transfixed with the 1500s and wanted to, maybe because he was a history teacher or something and studied the 1500s and wanted to experience that. So then he dies and he got reborn in the 1500s, and then he had all these past life memories of the future, and he wrote his prophecies. Or kings, people. You grow up in the future and you think about kingdoms and stuff, and you romanticize it and only think about the positive, and so you want to be reborn as a king. So lo and behold, next life you're reborn as a king. So maybe like King Henry VIII, the life he had before being King Henry VIII was as a school teacher from the year 3350, Yeah, but yeah, so if you have like visions of the future where you empathize with the future and you have a idea how the future is, it's probably because your past life, it was in a parallel universe in the future. I have lots of ideas about how the future should be, and some, I bet you that's probably because I've had a life or two in the future. And I think a lot of us have. I think a lot of people are being born in the world these days, and I think they're being reborn from all over. And I think a lot of them are being reborn from the future. A lot of people are being born here because, and even people who are above the state of the world. Like this world isn't a perfect place. There's lots of wars, there's lots of problems, but I bet you there's lots of people being born on this planet who are above it all, who don't need all the problems and aren't part of the problems or creating the problems, but they're here anyway because they just want to be part of the great change that is happening. This world is going through the biggest change ever. And so, yeah, so that's why I think a lot of people from the future are being born here, And the reason that this world is in the greatest change ever, it's the birth of, it's the birth of the whole world coming together, where you can talk to, cell phone, talk to everybody from all over the world, and education is all exploding. We can all find out everything about everything. You want to know something, you just Google it. We haven't totally come to the enlightenment yet, but one interesting part about it also is the video. We can actually see video, and not just video in terms of like on tape, cassette tape, because cassette video gets dated and then it gets colored and you can see how it's dated. But digital video stays the same forever. So, and that's what we've been doing exclusively for the last 5 years or so, or a couple years. It's all on digital cards, memory cards. So what that basically means, and I'm sure the resolution will get better in the future and it'll kind of be dated that way. But what it means is that you could be looking at something in 1,000 years and from somebody from now, or somebody from 500 years in the future, and it's like the same thing. The accent would be different and stuff. I guess you could tell it that way, but it kind of brings all of the different time all into one time, and it makes it takes the dating away from it, which is special because it takes away things that can make us separated, make us feel like we're separated and different from each other. We're all you'd be a lot less judgmental of somebody else that way if you just treat them all the same because they look the same on the video and stuff, and they're saying, and you can start to tell that there's different ideas and that people have about stuff that are timeless ideas. All the spiritual and philosophical ideas we have now, and political, they've been around forever. You read different philosophers and different writers from the past, and they've it's nothing's new. You just and it'll be more and more apparent in the future. So that's one thing. I mean, if you're like say 5,000 years in the future and you want to like study people in video format is the best way to do it, because you see them, you actually see the person. Well, the beginning of it all is right now, like the invention of YouTube and everything. Now's the beginning. So these are the videos that people are going to be watching the most. People aren't going to be watching the videos and studying people from 50 years or from 100 years or 500 years or 5,000 years, and like a million years. They're all going to be looking to this time right now, like 2011, 2007, like right when YouTube got started, and 2000 and all the way up until maybe 2020, while it all changed and all boiled out and we all became like whatever we're going to become in the future. Like it all started now, and so this is like the big crux point. So anyways, that's I got turned it into another subject, but that's why I think a lot of people from all over with different past lives from all over are coming here. And maybe even people from who had past lives and other parallel Earths that failed, that had Armageddons. And those are the people who were writing all those Armageddon movies, because it actually happened in a past life and another universe and stuff. And they wanted to be reborn on an Earth that actually succeeded. So that's that.